Morning everyone. Happy New Year. Here's a picture of old Father Time. He might represent 2021 and he's like in a factory clocking out the old year. And there on the right hand side is a baby. That's 2022 of course. And he's seeing in the new year. So January is the time of year where we take stock of our lives and try to change them. Now, we hold New Year in January, and that's named after a Roman god. And I couldn't do anything better than to just copy what it says on Wikipedia, which tells us that Janus, after whom January is named, is the Roman god of beginnings, gates, transitions, time, duality, doorways, passages, frames, and endings. Beginnings and endings. Is depicted as having two faces, as you can see in this bust of Janus. Sometimes he appears bearded in both faces, sometimes as youthful as he is here on the right hand face and old on the left hand face. He faces two ways, leaving the past behind and looking forward to the future. So the beginning of the year, January, which ushers in the year in the northern hemisphere where we live, is quite a difficult, challenging part of the year. It's also the month that comes after Christmas, so all the fun and festivities are out of the way. Also, we've probably been eating a lot during that period, so often January is quite a good time for us to take stock of our lives, despite the fact that in many ways it's quite a miserable month. It is as though we want to add to the feeling of challenge. So we make New Year's resolutions, and very often they're to do with trying to make ourselves feel better about ourselves. Quite a lot of resolutions, I suppose quite selfish ones, they're all to do with losing weight and making yourself look better. But often they can be trying to be better as a person as well. Obviously the word resolution comes from the word resolve, which means to be determined to make a change. New Year's resolutions are all about redemption. It's all part of the human spirit of believing that nothing is hopeless, that we can all change and we can all improve. You don't have to look very hard to find on the internet a quotation from Gandhi. No human being is so bad as to be beyond redemption. The picture on the right hand side shows someone who was redeemed for his past misdeeds, and one of the most well-known of all Christmas stories, A Christmas Carol. There we can see Ebenezer Scrooge 7 days early making his New Year resolution that instead of being the meanest man in London, he was going to be the most generous man in London. And of course the message of A Christmas Carol is if Ebenezer Scrooge can do it, we all can do it. Our New Year's resolutions can be various things. Here you see some examples of resolutions that people might have. Eat in a healthy way, that's a very common one. To exercise, extremely common. They're all things that are quite difficult sometimes to achieve as well, aren't they? Because obviously eating healthily is very desirable, but it's often very easy to fall into bad habits and eat fast food because I suppose the simple fact is that most people think it tastes nicer. It's also difficult to exercise because that requires exertion and a lot of people prefer just to laze around. Sleep enough. That doesn't require much in the way of effort, but it does require a certain change in mindset. So make sure that you get enough hours and that you devote those hours to sleeping. So all of those things there are all things that require us to sort of get up from our seats and to make a change. That for many people, is very difficult. Now, all those are very fine and admirable, but it's a good idea to set yourself goals that you think that you can achieve. SMART goals. You might have come across these words before. And when you get into the world of work, you can be sure that you will come across SMART goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. Did they make up all these adjectives because they made the word smart? Yes, they did. However, you can, if you look at the next slide, see that they are applicable to resolutions. So let's take a resolution that you might have, a normal person might have, which is probably to most people feel they don't exercise enough. So you might say, well, I want to be fitter, which, you know, everybody wants to do. But how do you do that? Well, you can use SMART targets. So, for instance, this year I'm going to walk the dog after school. You might say that would be a specific goal. You might say, right, I'm going to go running 3 times a week. I'm definitely going to run at the weekends, and I'm going to try to run twice in the week. So it's an achievable goal. I'm going to carry around a fitness app. You've probably seen people running who often have them strapped to their biceps, don't they? Use fitness apps to check your progress. It's good to see that you're doing better than you did last time, so that's measurable. And a good thing to do is try to enter a triathlon or a 10k, raise money for charity. I'm going to do it in the summer. I'm going to build up to it, so that's time bound. And the last one, I'm committed to this New Year's goal because, and keep reiterating that to yourself, because I want to feel fit, healthy and strong, which is something we all aspire to. And it's good to keep in mind why you are doing something whilst you are doing it. Here are some resolutions that young people might have. If you look down the list, one of the interesting ones there is it says, I will refrain from saying anything negative about myself or others. That's a resolution that we can all stick to. What I thought was interesting about that was because it said refrain from saying anything negative about myself. So that could be a resolution if you feel somehow that other people are better than you, or there's something wrong with yourself, to try to reverse that belief and to have confidence in yourself and a better self-image. Maybe one of the ways in which that can be achieved is by keeping to the resolution which is underneath. I will unplug from social media at least 24 hours every month. For some of us, that's going to be very difficult because social media is highly addictive. But as I'm sure you all know, if you've been on Instagram, it does tend to show the world as a sort of, that everybody else is having great fun, that somehow you are missing out on things, that your life isn't as perfect as the lives of the people who are selling a story of themselves. What we need to do is to draw back from that and to remember that that really is a sort of fiction, that nobody's life is perfect. The one underneath, I will get at least 8 hours of sleep every night, is also an interesting one, and that is something that a lot of teenagers find very difficult. But it is very important, of course, for concentration at school and for being the best person that you can be during the day, that you get as much sleep as you possibly can. So these are all things that we can try to do, try to achieve, and most importantly, try to stick to. So, what resolutions are you going to have this year? Make them smart. Don't have too many of them because you'll just get confused and you won't be able to keep to any of them. This very simple illustration there. This year I want to what? What is it that you want to achieve? What is it you want to be better at? What do you need to achieve those goals? What are you going to start doing, which is a positive thing? And what are you going to stop doing, which may well be a negative thing? And how are you going to grow as a person? It's easy to be cynical about resolutions. It's very easy to give resolutions up. But resolutions, they're just a way of us taking stock of our lives and doing maybe a bit of spring cleaning of our psyches and our behaviour in order for us to become better people. And I personally don't think that's a bad thing at all. So I hope that you are able to make some resolutions and that you're able to stick to them. And I hope you have a happy January.